Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here today. So I would like to quickly summarize what we have done in the field of health taxes. So for now, like UNDP has developed a model that estimates additional revenue that comes from excise tax rates increase. We focus for now on three product types: tobacco, alcoholic beverages, and sugar-sweetened beverages. So far, we have done some work in 5 countries where we are at different stages, and we have 4 countries coming in the first quarter of this year, which we are looking forward to, and then hopefully another 10 countries in this year with the cooperation with the Tax for SDG initiative. So what is normally the final product of the economic modeling, of the health tax modeling, is usually a brief where we provide the governments with policy recommendations on how to make the health tax system more efficient. We try to focus not only on the tax rates, but also on the tax base, because sometimes, for example, not all sugary drinks are included, or in contrary, water is included, or carbonated water is included, or also there is space for improvement, which is what we try to analyze as well. Next slide, please. So for each country, we usually model 3 scenarios of the excise tax increase. We try to model the scenarios to the country's specific context and requests. Some countries are, for example, bound with an international agreement or similar situations, so we want to respect that, of course. And currently, we forecast additional revenues from excise tax that come from the increased excise tax rates. But we also calculate and estimate additional VAT revenue that is linked to the increase in prices, retail prices, linked to the excise tax rates increases. We also forecast decreases in consumption of the harmful products, and in case of sweet beverages, also decrease in volume of sugar consumption. We also have a look at the share of tax and share of excise tax in the retail price. And the linked trends. What we often see is, especially for countries with specific tax, that the products, cigarettes mainly, become more and more affordable, and the share of tax in retail price falls, which again makes the products more affordable. What we would like to do next, or what we have already started working on, is to extend the model or improve the model. We would like to translate the decreases in consumption to health impacts, but we haven't. Well, it's in progress. We are working on that. And we would like to also have a look on wider economic impacts. For example, how increasing excise tax rates would impact income tax revenue and other aspects of the economy. Yeah, next slide, please. So what have we learned so far? One of the challenges, or one of the points that is often raised by the policymakers, is the fear of illicit trade. It's very often mentioned. It very often comes up in the interviews we have with the stakeholders, especially the ministries of finance. What another challenge is little bit lack of data or accessible entry data, especially on sweet beverages. In addition, sweet beverages are quite a diverse category with different kinds of products where the prices differ. Sometimes also the tax rates differ. We can model it separately, but again, we need the data for it. What can be expected a little bit? There is much higher engagement from, not much higher, but there is usually higher engagement from the side of the health stakeholders, health ministries of health and other stakeholders. But it's not surprisingly, it's not always the case. We have countries where the ministries of finance are also very well engaged, and it enhances the cooperation a lot. What we would like to still needs to be determined is the approach that we would take on e-smoking devices and potentially other products. On the positive side, from our calculations, our estimates, increasing excise tax rates really brings additional excise tax revenues for the governments, at least in the countries we have modeled so far. Not only in excise tax, but also in VAT. And one additional lesson, what is really important, as mentioned already, every country is very specific. They have not only different tax rates, but they have different tax structure. They have this different fiscal situation, bound with different international agreements or different international contexts, regional contexts. They have different products. So there is no one-size-fits-all approach, and we are happy to learn about the countries and always tailor the model to the specific situation. And yeah, I think that is all from me, and I will be happy to respond to any questions you might have.
Jeremy, over to you, please.
Yes, so maybe you can advance the slide. Thank you. So I'd like to present work that I have been doing with others as a consultant for WHO since my retirement in 2020. And I'll just mention that while I was at WHO, I was one of those involved with the creation of the guidelines for investment cases that we thought of then as really a form of economic evaluation, and Dudley has mentioned the term benefit-cost analysis or cost-benefit analysis. I think of investment cases now more as a form of deliberative discourse that is intended to bring diverse stakeholders together around points of agreement. So we think of on the health tax investment cases, we have been requested by the United Nations Interagency Task Force to prepare a series of documents that build on what we call a health tax action framework. And we have provided general guidance, and we've provided specific guidance in the areas of tobacco, alcohol, and sugar-sweetened beverages. But also, and at the request of the task force, we have looked into fossil fuels as an additional area for the application of health taxes. And we have also developed a number of case studies based on country experience that extrapolate across countries and build on lessons learned. So rather than thinking of investment cases as economic evaluation, but rather thinking of economics as the common language spoken by different stakeholders, we really focus on how we can translate policy. So using a design approach that is working backwards from the objectives and the requirements of stakeholders to develop an implementation framework with an explicit focus on the political and economy environment. So if you were to break that down into a linear series of steps, you could think of the policy environment, the policy content, and policy prioritization. Could I have the next slide, please? Now, in each of these phases, and I'll bring your attention to the upper right-hand corner of this slide, policy prioritization, content, and environment, there is what's commonly thought of as a window, for example, to get a policy on the agenda. It's the first window. A window to get a policy considered as a legitimate response to that problem on the agenda, and then a window for implementation. And at each of these phases, it's important to bring in a stakeholder-driven approach where notably there are, promoters and also detractors. And we commonly think in the health taxes framework as industry interference. Now, I've mentioned the case studies, the country names where these case studies have been, performed is on the left-hand sidebar of the slide. And it analyzes each of these countries from this unified analysis framework, which is known in the literature as multiple streams analysis. In conjunction with these guidance documents on the overall picture of health taxes, on tobacco, on alcohol, on SSBs, sugar sweetened beverages, on fossil fuels, we have developed, and this is really work, that I want to credit Dudley as having been, one of the initiators of, developing a series of tools that provide the opportunity for a user who may be a policymaker, but maybe another stakeholder, or maybe a member of the public, to step through to look at some publicly available data that are preloaded and to do a scenario analysis on health taxes. So recently, as part of the same work that we've done for the task force, in addition to the documents that I've mentioned and some training materials that we've developed, we also have a tool that we are will be featuring on a web portal that was subsequently commissioned by the task force. So this tool will be, as I say, publicly available and intended to spark the interest of stakeholders about doing an investment case for health taxes. It doesn't substitute for the in-depth work that one might do with the One Health tool, that one might do with country analysts, but it is a taster of what could be to come from that process. May I have the next slide, please? And so this is just a look at some of the products that we've developed at the request of the task force. The health taxes portal featured on the left, which will have all of our guidance documents, but some additional functionality that you will not receive in a paper-based traditional publication. We also have an example of one of the investment cases where we have been engaged alongside of other partners. And I believe Khalifa, whom I see on this call, was performed the economic analysis in Georgia, and we did the institutional context analysis. And again, the overall guidance document that will be featured on the website, Action for Health Taxes, from policy development to implementation. That's all from us at this point. Thank you.